Well, hello. Welcome to one more. I think, what is this, 24 now?
This would be episode 24. Welcome to 39 Drunken Disorderlies.
Excellent. We have a little whiteboard now. Do you see that, guys? We're going up in the world. We got a little whiteboard now.
This board is here to remind us and our editors what episode it is. And today... Oh, yeah. No, the editor knows.
I was going to say, the only person that seems to know is the editor. The rest of us are just guessing.
I mean, it's always nice then you have some sort of visual, you know, it's like our slate.
Yeah.
And
you also might have noticed, I mean, I'm only talking to you really observant fans out there, that it's just a little bit quieter on this side of the microphone stands than normal. We're missing one of our fundamentals here.
That's right. There's a little more space on the table. I have elbow and knee room, so that must mean we're down a body.
And this time it's not me.
And nor me.
Well, so obviously that means that Luna isn't here.
And yeah, we're missing Luna, and she's been at most of them.
And Rich isn't grinding his teeth in the background.
Right? We don't have Rich. It's
So-
Rich, right? Oh,
Yep.
You know who it is.
Oh, wait.
Pokeroo.
He's
He's
You know, we always miss him.
every time.
How does that happen?
I don't know, but I heard he was there last week.
I keep hearing about that. No, see, that's entirely ridiculous because no one would put me or Trevor on a kid's show.
Right.
That's one of those things. In fact, all you out there are thinking about it, you should put me and Trevor on a kid's show. It would be great.
We'd be the examples of like
Especially something live.
Avoid.
That starts at like 6 o'clock in the morning on a Saturday. So me and this guy show up 6 a.m. live, fresh for the show. All the kids are ready to go, and it's like, you know,
Fresh for the show.
fresh for the
I
show.
haven't gone to bed yet.
Yeah, comes staggering out of the back room, puking all over
Like
the fucking
bourbon
Muppet guy, and
smoke.
desperately trying to pretend that children don't notice how screwed up you are when they obviously do. You know, like,
Even when I'm not like that, like when I show up to like my family get-togethers, or now that there's babies in my family and my close friends, I'm the cause or baby crier. I'll show up and the babies take one look at me and like, that's a bad man, and they're just wailing right away. It's like I have to walk out of their line of sight, and as they get older, their line of sight gets larger, and I eventually have to like leave the room. I'm like, I get it. I'll go.
No, I've totally had that
leave.
experience, and it's funny because usually children, because they don't see giants, it means nothing to them. Like
Right.
you're just a larger playground. It means nothing. But last weekend, honestly, no, 2 weekends ago, yeah, went to breakfast, and my little girl at breakfast, she's like, 2, maybe 3, maybe. I don't know what it was. The look on my face, the night I'd had, my hair, I don't know. And she's seen me a number of times. And it's always been cool before, but she just started wailing in this restaurant. And the only thing I could do to help the situation was not look at her. So I just had to eat breakfast and kind of look at my shoes,
Pretend like you weren't there.
yeah. Because children know.
Well, they see you in a new way, in a new light, and you're a bad man. So,
But anyway, that's like I said,
so for all of you who
children's show. These two guys.
Yeah, and for all of you who aren't aware of what you're seeing, tune in on YouTube and take a look because you're missing out. But
Oh yeah, if you're just hearing this, you've missed half of that for sure.
what you're also missing is the fact, and if you're hearing this, what you're probably also realizing is you're missing another voice, which would
That is very true. That is definitely our boy Lars.
our dear friend Lars, who is no longer with us. He has moved on down to New York City for the week. And is going to be down there living it up, doing his actor thing down there. He's actually, his brother lives there, who is also Chris, who is also the composer of the 39 D&D
of our official theme song.
Which will have a full-on theme song recorded.
We'll put the applause and the laugh track in later, Jabal.
Coming soon. Yeah, no, and all the hand signals and stuff. Yeah, tags. And so, he's in New York this week. We're definitely not going to hear from him at all during this show, so just be prepared not to see or hear from him at all.
Sure.
Yeah.
So, honestly, today was one of those days I really had no idea what to talk about. But it's funny because Lars isn't here. We'll talk about people who aren't here. Because why not? That's actually a pretty salient topic when it comes to the idiocy of my lifestyle. And I was thinking about that today. I've just reached that point in my life I'm 37 years old, where you start losing people at a ratio high enough to really mark it on the calendar. Like when you're a kid, if you're lucky and you don't like live in hell or something really crazed, you don't lose dozens of people. It just doesn't happen. But by the time you reach like 40, I mean, all the old people you know, they're like riding the ragged edge. And the people who are going to die of disease and, you know, bad lifestyle, stupid spaceman lifestyle decisions, you know, have done so or are doing so. So I was thinking about it today. Actually, I was talking to a bunch of randoms, but I was talking to these two guys in the park, and brought to my attention that, yeah, that's exactly what happens. You reach a certain point in your life and people just start to expire. And when I was younger and we partied way too hard all the time, continuously, as this entire series is basically about, you get to the point where you forget that mortality is like always there. It's always part of your day to day, right? It's only when you look back on things. I mean, I lost my mother when I was 18. I lost a few people that were really important and tragic and sort of ruined my life and changed my life and, you know, these things. But the recognition of your own mortality doesn't come until you've survived long enough, I think, to have like arthritic pains when you get up in the morning, you know, and then you go in to take a piss and you're like, shit, not only am I old, but people fucking die and I'm going to die. And then you're like,
I don't stand so good. Yeah.
You know, and that changes your approach to the entire game, I think. Like some people, you know, immediately go, I'm going to be healthier. I'm going to, you know, try harder. I'm going to buy a Ferrari to prove that my penis still works or whatever. And other guys, I think, like me, who don't send dick pics to anyone.
It's going to be a subject we're going to talk about later.
Jabril. Anyway, we'll talk about that in a little bit and how acceptable that is religiously. But anyway, so someone who does not have that kind of technological savvy and does not really think that becoming vegan at the age of 37 is going to change anything, realizes that really what you can do is you can look for simple solutions or you can die trying. So instead of doing drugs, you know, 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, all the time, I fucking just don't. I mean, it's amazing, but just not doing that has probably added like at least 20 minutes to my life. Drinking? Of course I still drink, but it's not like I buy a case of beer on the way home from work every day and drink it before I get home and have to dial a bottle. I'd be like, yeah, I just got off the bus, but I'm out of beer again, so maybe you should send me more beer.
Was there a time when the alcohol was being consumed like a river?
I lived with my brother Jack at an address in the East End, and we used to order 2 2-4s and a 26er, and both would have picked up liquor on the way home from work. So we get home and polish off a bottle or two and then order, 48 more beers and
start with the booze and regress to the beer.
Yeah, and then eventually it's like, oh, we're out of booze again, time to go to the pub. So we're down the street at the local. And after a while you start to realize that's not just insane, that's psychotic. Like that'll kill you. That'll kill you fast. And you burn out hard. But when you're a young guy and you're sort of just partying your ass off and everything seems so free and easy, then you do that. You do that and you love it. And I have no regrets. Like life was weird and it was crazy. The whole thing was mental, but I loved every second of it, man. You kidding? Like I live with some amazing people. I've seen more sunsets and sunrises than any man alive. As I'm always awake. It's like nighttime, morning. Well, here we are. Woo, and like I've learned how crazy people can be, but also how beautiful they can be when they're just when their defenses are down, when everything's gone, and it's just like this is just person raw 1-to-1. I've also seen how terrible people can be, but that's great. I mean, that's the diversity of life. That's what living's about. I don't know how else to do it. Like I think my mother died. Not only she died relatively young, but I think she also died without having experienced that many things. Like there's a lot of things in life, I'm sure, and she mentioned some of them when she was very ill before she died. She mentioned things like she smoked pot for the first time when she was like in her mid-40s. And it wasn't like, she wasn't like, oh, it was a life-changing experience. I'm going to smoke pot for the rest of my life. It's great. But again, it's just a simple experience that most people take for granted. that she simply never had for 40 years of her life and then died a few years later. You know? So, I mean, like, thinking about how cheap life is and how simple life is makes it more valuable, because if you couldn't lose it, it wouldn't mean anything. If it wasn't so temporary, it wouldn't have the lasting virtues that it does. And I don't know what people's personal experiences are, and I'm sure there's people who tell me, you know, the exact opposite of my life experiences. But here I am now thinking about my own mortality a little bit and realizing that even if I wanted to be like 100% a different person or change my lifestyle and, you know, whatever, it's a little late. I've kind of entrenched in myself in some of the things that I am and some of the places I'm going to be. You know, like, for example, what I do for a living, working in the industry I work in and sort of as a mercenary in the nightlife. Well, that's a skill, and it makes good money. And you can do it a lot longer than you can, like, be a boxer or fucking, you know, a professional hockey player, because you can last as long as you have some talent and some ability. And that means that probably I will exploit being a bouncer of some stripe for the foreseeable future. You know? I mean, we're heading into a recession, and you can tell because contracting gigs have dried up. There's no work to be had if you're a contractor unless you booked the contract 3 or 4 months ago, right? It's all drying up. But bars never close. Even when the rest of the country is completely poor and everybody's broke, the only industry, like one of the few industries that's completely insulated from those economic turmoils, is liquor. In fact, if anything, when people go broke, they fucking drink. Bars double up, and it gets even busier and stranger, you know?
Yeah. It gets more rowdy, that's for sure. Do you think going to more funerals changes the way you treat other people on an ongoing basis?
I don't know.
I don't know. We were saying how it does maybe change the way you run your life.
It scares me.
But then maybe
that's for sure.
The way
like seeing you know, family members in coffins, going to funerals, dealing with the people I've never met, telling you stories about family members you didn't know. You know, like hearing things about people. Like I dedicated an episode to my grandmother, right, whose funeral I went to this summer. I learned a lot about her that I just didn't know from people I didn't know. It was like when I went to my uncle's funeral, same thing. I learned a lot about him from people I didn't know about him. That you know, and what's scary about that is that it just shows you like how much of people's lives exist in a microcosm that you'll never experience. Like you might know a person your entire life and know almost nothing about them. And that's what scares me, actually, is not being as close with the people I want to be before they die. I want to live with, you know, the people I truly love, the people I truly want to know. I think I should know them better. I feel like we should all have better relationships. We should all have better, because it's so fucking temporary. And that's the only regret I think I actually have. The only one is that there are people in this life that are dead, and I wished I knew them better than I did before they went.
I think North Americans have a tough time living life and enjoying life.
I think so too.
I think there's a lot of emphasis put on. You good? You need tissues or anything? A lot of emphasis put on career and work and money and capitalism. So, you know, you look at other nations. I think of other, just from my own cultural understanding, it's like other European nations that know how to celebrate life. And then, of course, worldwide, there's other great examples. But North Americans are...
Again, even like New Orleans and their idea of a funeral.
That's true. There's parts of North America.
You know, it's cultural, but it's also small. I'm talking even on a smaller level, just familial. Like, you know, I was at a Christmas dinner, and someone I've known, like a family friend I've known since I was a small child, told us a story about his time in a Turkish prison in the 70s for like some stupidity. And I couldn't believe it. Like, this is like a guy, and I never would have known. You know, like, you know, just a suburban dude.
Suburban dude.
But like, that's what I mean. The people closest to you, you might hardly know. And then your parents.
I was gonna say they live separate lives.
Your parents.
Or double lives.
When was the last time you sat down with your parents and said, what was the most fucked up thing you ever did? And more importantly, when do you think you got a straight answer? Because even if you have had those conversations, I never have. I actually never have. And I've thought about it. I've wondered. Because my dad, as I'm sure you've known if you watch the show at all, my dad's one of my heroes. Like, he's a man, and I believe in him, and I think he's done a very good job of being a good man in this world. And that's hard. That's hard enough as it is. But I've never asked him. Never once. What's the most fucked up thing you ever did? Like, how crazy were you? What did you do when you were 21? What did you do when you were 18? What the fuck? No, he's told me some crazy stories, but never like that. And that's because you don't know. You don't ask. You don't think about it, right? And now I worry, like, if I don't ask, maybe I'll never know.
That's right.
You see, because it's not like we're getting younger.
Or what happened, like, with when I started Q&A'ing my grandparents was I wasn't getting straight answers because they didn't know. I asked grandma all these things, and she'd be like, "Oh, now Jack, I'm like, just because you guys were married for 75 years, you can still answer it for yourself, Grandma." But like, she would always ask my grandpa about it, and I'm like, "No, Grandma, I want your version."
Yeah, what did you see? What happened to you? And she's like, "Well, things."
I'm like, and so that's why you're saying you gotta ask at the right times. Because
But it's more than even that, though, because again, I said you might ask, and you still might never get that answer,
right?
Because they might not be comfortable telling you.
That too,
right?
Yeah.
So that's a part of it. I mean, and we live in a world where, again, like I say, the relationships we have are so tertiary almost. Like we don't really know anybody, is what I'm trying to say. We don't really know anybody, and we try to. And I think we should know each other more.
I know this.
Oh yeah.
I know this, buddy.
Uh-oh. We're getting a call.
Speaking of family, we were just talking about family and knowing people. What do we got here?
Well, these are two guys we already know.
We know these guys. Well, yeah, we know one. We were just on the subject of family.
Family, relationships, knowing people, and how we should know each other better before we all pass away, because it's inevitable. So it's perfect.
Yes, it's true when you put it that way.
So,
my name's Lars, a long-time listener, first-time caller.
yeah.
Speaking of family, this is my brother Chris. Say hi, Chris. Hi, Chris.
What's amazing is you guys have just called in time. You're going to get your free Swedish hand pump.
That's my hat on the wall. I want it back.
That is your hat on the wall. That's right. We're offering.
Closely resembles my hair.
Well, maybe I feel like you donated that. I thought that was just your new hair that you grew.
It's on permanent loan to the Lars Rock Hotel.
The Lars Rock Hotel. Maybe that's what this episode's gonna be called. I feel like.
Yeah, could be. Could be.
How are you guys? It's nice to be there with you.
Yeah. So for everyone who's listening and at home, we have a call, our first ever call in for this show. We have Lars, who's a participant on the show on a regular basis, calling in
To the show. On the show. Who would have thunk it? Especially since Trevor very carefully foreshadowed that he was not going to be seen or heard from. See what I mean? That's called a plot device, and we did that just for you guys at home.
Actually, what I should have said was that the Larsons will not be heard of today, but in fact, there they are. There they are. Look at them in all their beauty.
Don't use our real name.
No, sorry. That's that.
Instead, we've got an international.
Don't use our real name.
International episode.
It's Stan and Philip McCann Pump. We don't know them. It's not.
Huntsville, New York.
So yeah, where are you broadcasting from?
Yonkers via Bronxville.
Yonkers via Bronxville? What? I think I returned an RV there once.
Yeah, he got them. He got them. He got them with that one, folks. So on this call-in right now, we thought we would ask you guys, what kind of drunken disorderlies have you witnessed in your travels down there?
I would like to defer this to my brother Chris because he's got some stories where, like, maybe tell the one where we've had ones together where we end up the next day and we're both like sore, like we fell downstairs or got in a fight, but don't remember how it happened. I can tell that one. Yeah, there was a good one. Happened in Freeport. That we went out for.
I think I returned an RV there too.
Meeting the neighbors. And the next morning I woke up and I had like dreads in my hair and terrible pains in the back of my neck and a vague recollection that there had been some sort of altercation to which Lars was mostly responsible just because he was parading around the place making remarks that the locals didn't find to their taste, and I just decided to chime in and defend my younger brother. And the next thing I know, I was being rabbit punched in the back of the head. But mostly I was upset, and Lars will attest to this, that that the guy was pulling my hair. Like that was his advantage over me. And I was like, who pulls hair? Like, I can't fight this guy. He's pulling my hair.
He could probably pull your hair and punch you in the head with the same hand.
He was doing both, but I was enduring the punches just because I was like, come on, man, you're pulling my hair like a sissy. So that just made him punch harder.
Usually does.
Night, we asked some police for the way home, or like there were police involved, but apparently we were cool with them and they were cool with us, and maybe they took care of the guy that was rabbit punching me and pulling my hair. I'm not entirely sure.
Well, if he was a fucking sissy, I can't imagine they wouldn't have. And that's really annoying.
Well, I hope.
Hair pulling, rabbit punching, that sounds like...
Definitely a sissy, like who pulls...
Yeah, that's a dick move.
He could have just punched me in the face, not pull my hair, and punch me in the back of the head. That's a double sissy.
Yeah, once they found out that
To that
yeah.
guy in Freeport, it's like you're a fucking double sissy. Just
All right,
put that out there.
to the sissy in Freeport, fuck you.
Yeah, to the sissy.
Fuck you. I returned an RV there one time, and I never got rabbit punched, you dicks, so... Yeah.
New York's one of those places where
A lot of people live.
Late too, like 5 a.m. So it's just one of those places where you can drink for way later. I remember being in New York City out with this guy drinking, and we're doing like Boilermakers and beer and shot of Jameson, and then just feeling like I have to leave now. Like, in order to survive, my body has to leave. And I somehow got up. And my trick in New York City or in any big city is if you're really out partying, you keep a card of like the hotel that you're staying at in your pocket, so that if you're too drunk to speak to the Uber driver, this is pre-Uber, I guess. Now Uber, you just use Uber and he knows where you live. But I used to just give the card to the guy because I couldn't speak well enough to tell him where he had to take me.
That's a great idea until you accidentally hand over your room card key, thinking it's like, I'm at the Hilton, and you just hand the guy your card key, and you're standing in the hallway for 3 hours, headbutting your own door, you know?
Or you're like, handing over cards, and he's like, sir, I can't take you to Visa. Sir, I can't take you to the Boys and Girls Club. Like,
I'm staying at the Visa Hotel, room number
Yeah.
943710880361002.
end up at the library or something. Yeah, that's funny. That's a good skit right there. Write that down. Everybody write that down.
Write it down.
Okay, so
So you guys are in New York right now. What are you currently working on that is drunk and disorderly enough for the show? Aside from the, obviously, pack of beer that you're into, I can see that one on.
Currently, I'm actually working on painting this place that we're sitting in. That's how we find ourselves here.
What colors are you painting the place that you're sitting in? Mauve?
Antique white. White and antique white. Various shades of white and dirty white.
White and dirty. Well,
various shades of dirty white, another possible title. Chris is just loaded.
that leads us back into Jabril and his dick pics.
That I played it.
Okay.
Dirty shades of white. gray, but unwashed.
Listen, you started this.
No, I didn't.
Yes, you did. You started it.
Wow, this is a trip.
Okay, hold on a sec. Give me the phone.
Oh, wait.
Sorry, Lars, you're missing something right now. We're having a really serious instrument here. Like, me and Jabril are talking about sending or not sending dick pics. Yes, that's why I brought you right up here to my eyes. Because right now I'm going to turn around so you can see Jabril as he tells me that somehow me not sending dick pics
That's not.
and having the argument about it is my fault. Now watch.
No.
Here's Jabril. Okay, go ahead.
All right. Listen. First of all,
Yep.
you found somebody's phone, went through their phone.
I did.
And sent their dick pics to their grandma.
To grandma, yeah.
All right. That is not living in the 21st century, and that wasn't cool.
Why? Because you wouldn't want me to
Just-
send your
no,
dick pics
listen.
to grandma?
I don't have a grandmother.
You said that already. So what does it matter to you? You're just taking it personally?
Just being a dick for no reason.
Dick pic.
Dick.
All right, so here's the problem. Lars, here it is. We're going to have you guys vote on this one. Here's the deal. This is what I did, and this is what he has a problem with. I found a guy's phone, lost and found, and it was unlocked, so I flipped it open to try and figure out if I can call his buddies or get his phone back to him. And it turned out he had like 25 or 30 dick pics of his own. It was pretty obviously this guy just taking, because there's also like full body shots of him and his dick. So I knew, I knew it was him. So what I did was I took them all, put them into a folder, and sent them to the number that said grandma in his phone. And then I put the phone back in the lost and found, right? And just said, whatever, he'll find his phone, and, grandma will tell him that his phone was lost because, she'll figure that out pretty fast, right?
Because dick.
Now, Jabril took huge offense to this. He was like,
wasn't
I can't believe you, like, sent grandma these dick pics. And I'm like, well, why are you taking 25 pics of your dick on your phone? And he's like, and you've never taken pictures of your dick on your phone? And I said, no, actually, I haven't. I've seen it enough times. Like, I'm pretty familiar with it. I don't need photographic evidence to prove it's still there.
I told him to try it.
Yeah, and then Jabril goes,
He might get
you
a
should.
positive
Then he goes,
response.
you should try it. You should send a dick pic to someone. You might get. He said it himself. You might get a positive response. And I'm like, I might, but then I might have exactly the same problem that my brother had. My brother didn't know how to use the cloud, right? I've told this story before. The cloud. So he took a bunch of dick pics and sent them to these girls, but he also posted them to the cloud so he could save them. So my stepmother and him are at brunch with a bunch of her, like, 50, 60-year-old female friends, and she wants to show off pictures of her trip to Italy, her happy hiking trip through Italy. And she pulls the cloud open and whips out the photo files, and there's, like, a half dozen pictures of my little brother's dick. And, of course, it's obviously him, and her friends all know this, right? So... Well, yeah, or whatever, right? Yeah, I don't know. But anyway, so he's sitting there. They're looking at him, and he's looking at them like, So right there is exactly one reason why the dick pic is probably not a good idea.
He was also asked if it was what was it? What the dick was? If it was a.
Yeah, it does sound
That
kind of like Jabril is a dick pic expert. That's exactly what I said. I'm like, do you have an experience with this dick pic thing? And he was like, well, you should just try it. You might experience something. And I'm like, I might. You're absolutely right. Experience something, Jabril.
You should try it.
That's why they call him Jabril the Thrill.
Is that the thrill?
Now listen, I think that Bob should try it at least once. That's what I think.
Well, and then he asked.
Because he said he doesn't live in the first of all, he doesn't live in the 21st century. Second, I think you should try it. He's in a relationship. That's a great way to practice.
Wasn't he? I believe he was.
Okay,
also,
and it got even better than that because then Jabril asked Karim
if it was a nice dick.
if. Oh yeah, he asked me if it was a nice dick. No, I think actually that was her that asked me that.
So,
Why would it?
so
No. That's what I said. I
I don't
think
want to see Bob's dick.
I think Jabril just wants dick
somebody-
pics.
nigga, no.
That's what I think he
Nigga,
wants. I really
no.
do.
Nobody. Nah, man.
Oh, but it's an experience.
Try it. It's a life experience.
No, and then
Like
he-
what you were saying.
And then he goes to Karim and he says, "Do you think that sending dick pics is what was that again?
what did I say?
That religious term.
haram.
Haram is sending dick pics haram."
Oh, that's the other.
And Karim's like, "Yeah, probably." And Drill's like, really? Once again, like right back to this Jabril and dick pics. I think there's a history here that we're just not talking about. I think there's a whole lot of like Jabril's dick on the internet that we're just not talking about. I think that's what's going on here.
So we have a new sign. We have a sign that we post for the episode number, and I write down possible titles. So these are all the quotes that we got going on today. We're writing down. You can't probably read them because it's my writing. You want that? Oh, we got. I guess mic is off. Thank you. Anyway.
Shades of Dirty White sounds kind of racist.
Yeah, that's the joke. That's why it was funny. I thought when you guys said that.
Yeah, that's actually what I thought too. I'm like, oh, various shades of white, dirty white, you know.
You know.
That's how it is there in Yonkers, right?
Bob, have you ever been to New York City?
Yes, I have.
You have?
Yeah.
Drunk and disorderly New York City stories?
I was like a kid, like a teenager, but I have an amazing story. A guy tried to sell me the coolest bootleg video in the universe, and it was called Batman. Yeah. And it was not Batman like Batman and Robin. It was like a guy with a baseball bat who had taped a small camera to the end of the bat and would ring people's doorbells and then hit them with the bat and videotape the whole fucking thing because the video camera's taped to the bat. And he tries to sell me this thing. It's this little TV. He's showing me clips like, you can't get this shit nowhere. This is bootleg. It's black. It's right on the street. You can't get this nowhere. And I'm like, of course you can. It's a fucking felony. But I'm like, that's amazing. You know, I'm like that's crazy. Like, ding dong. Hey, Granny, here's the bat. You know what I mean? Like, that was like, and it was an hour. He told me it was an hour and a half. An hour and a half.
People getting bad.
Do you know how long it takes for average person to get swatted with a bat like 3 times? Like, what, 4 seconds? An hour and a half. This guy's been rolling around New York, whacking up who the fucking baseball bat with the camera attached to. He's got an hour and a half of fucking footage. That's an epic right there. That's an Oscar. Like,
how many
really?
How many of those people were actors? How many of them just got hit with a bat?
All of them. But by the looks of it, it was just like some crazy hood rat. He's like, yeah, I'm just going to fucking hit people with a bat and record it and try and sell it for $5 on the corner. It was intense.
The guys from Jackass made millions doing that, but the key is you have to hit yourself with the bat.
That's true. That's true.
Right. Not strangers.
Because you're just like, again, yeah, exactly. If you're just like, at the drive-thru of Burger King, like giving some guy the baseball bat, you're probably not getting your career off the ground. You're probably just going to prison.
We say that now, but yeah.
All right. Well.
All right.
What do we do now?
Well, I guess you gotta go do big things there, and we'll.
Oh yeah, we're doing big things.
He's got to go make it white and off-white and ugly white. Dirty white.
So, I know what I was gonna say is we're gonna schedule 39 Drunken Disorderlies New York, and we'll do a New York episode.
Yeah.
Road trip and come down.
That's official, ladies and gentlemen, without a home.
Everybody heard it here first. You
heard
heard
it here
It's
first.
on the
We're
mic.
going to schedule a New York City Drunken Disorderlies. You heard it there first.
Parting words. Happy Halloween.
Happy
Yes, brother.
fucking
Happy Halloween. We love you guys. Thank you so much for the call-in.
Whatever ethnic celebration you prefer to substitute in its place.
Duly said, duly noted. Very progressive.
Young Samhain. And they're showing us the fireplace. Aww.
Oh, Yule time. All right, you crazy kooks. Enjoy New York City.
I'm cracking one for you. Unlike Jabril, who's just getting dick pics. I don't know what to say. Swedish hand pump, Jabril.
Just in case I'm wrong, turn on the radio, baby. Baby, listen to my song. Turn on
It's not bad. Since you guys at home can't hear any of that, I want to tell you it's pretty amazing.
We're here a little bit, I think. Thanks.
Good night.
And that's the end of our very first call-in, ladies and gentlemen. That was pretty interesting, wasn't it?
Wow. Well, we recorded that.
Yeah, I'm sure
Yeah.
it was terrible.
Yeah, that must have been awful to hear.
Awful.
But that
You
was
know
our
what?
first call in, so we're
The
gonna
thing
work
is,
on
that's
that.
what we get to do sometimes, hosting a show like this.
We do stuff though. We pioneer, and then we make mistakes and we
That
make it
was
better.
not pioneering. That was just having trees fall on you because you can't cut them right. That was similar to pioneering. Dying in the wilderness is similar to pioneering.
Yeah.
Right,
No,
Jabril?
bodies go down. Bodies go down. That's for sure. We sacrificed some bodies on that try. Jabril's thumbs up though, so that's nice.
Yeah.
That's good. I like that kind of positivity. I don't want bleak, you know.
No, neither do I.
I mean, just being realist.
I think
realism.
again. I think that's funny. That's one of those things. Wanting to know people. We just met Lars and his brother,
Chris,
and I mean, you guys didn't meet shit. That was just us having like a personal moment here on stage with the phone in our hands. Which I guess for many of you who have grown up having most of your personal experience with a phone in your hand, that will seem very natural to you,
Yeah, you'll be very relatable.
right? Because I got my first cell phone when I was like almost 20. I mean, really? Like I was like 18, 19, something like that. Which is, I mean, I know it's unheard of today, right? You get a cell phone when you're 3. Like you come out of the womb and they're like Samsung, you know,
Yeah, they brain-
iPhone.
Yeah,
But
lock you into that.
actually, that's funny too. The technology and 39 Drunk and Disorderlies. Wow, the things that have fucking changed. Like I could never get away with being me today. There are too many fucking cameras.
Yeah.
Literally
Oh my
everywhere.
God, literally everywhere.
Like all those times when I had like, brawls in the street or like gone into a fight on the subway or something, there'd at least be like, now there'd be like 20 people going
that
and
too.
filming the whole fucking
that
thing.
too, but also just like fixed.
Also CCTV.
Like on all the streetcars. Like
But the thing is, fixed CCTV means different thing today than it meant 10 years ago too, right? Fixed CCTV 10 years ago is like the guy's 5 feet in front of the camera and you're like, is that Jerry Seinfeld?
yeah.
And it's me. Instead, it's like, no, it's not. Who knows?
It was so bad.
Because again, that grain. I mean, I loved that. I loved that watching the news clips.
They'd be like,
you know?
suspect was seen fleeing, and you're like, that's a fly.
Here's a picture. Here's a picture of the suspect. And it could literally be.
It's just
it
like-
could be anybody.
It looks like footage they got from Mars or something.
Yeah, it's like either a sort of grayish white blob, or sort of a blackish brown blob, but. And if it's an Asian guy, he's completely off the hook because there's no color bleed whatsoever. It's just it could be anybody, right? Like literally,
It disappears on camera.
just disappears on camera.
That was terrible. All right. But yeah.
It was fun. It was fun having Lars call in. But I think we should probably work that one out before
What
we
we're
do
going
the
to
call-in show
do is
again.
we're
I
going to
don't know.
have the proper cables to because you can do that. And anyone who's listening at home, yeah, we know what we're doing. But, if you want to write in and give us some tips or hints on how to do that affordably, that'd be cool too.
Oh, and also it is, as Lars' brother said, it is Halloween this week.
Happy fucking Halloween. I did say it's going to be a chilling episode.
So
And
I was told to tell at least one ghost story, so I'm going to.
right?
Right?
Should we can we kill one of these lights and get the mood going in here?
No.
Our videographer's like, no fucking way. But you know what? Use your voice and change the mood. How about that?
So
Or
when I was a child, my grandparents owned a house in a small town up north. And it was a normal single-story sub-basement dwelling. So it had, the back stairs went down into a basement. And the first floor was on ground floor. And the basement was an old storage space for shit from bygone eras, So one of those old hand wringer washers and all this other shit. And they also had a fold-out couch down there. So me and my mom were staying there for one of these family functions. And we were both sleeping on this couch in the basement. And I woke up in the middle of the night. And I had to pee, as you will. And I went to get out of bed. And I can remember, it's funny, the things you remember vividly in moments that were so terrifying. I put my foot down on the floor, and the floor was ice cold, the concrete floor. And that's not surprising. Concrete floors get cold. But I remember feeling how cold it was, and it kind of... I looked around. Dark, dark basement. And behind the staircase, which is one of those drop-down wooden, just, straight slat wooden stairs. There's no concrete backing or anything. So you can see through them behind the stairs, like a, storage space and shit behind the stairs. I started seeing this sort of incandescence, this sort of reddish orange incandescence, right? I call it incandescence because it wasn't light. It wasn't lighting up the room, but I could see it in the dark. Then it started to move sort of in my direction, and I was pretty scared. What the fuck is this? It's pretty weird. And I'm a kid, don't know what's up. Didn't know. Couldn't figure it out. It passes behind some shit, and it sort of looks more like a person now. Like it's not just a cloud of light. It's human shape. And that was kind of frightening, and it started moving closer and closer, and it passes behind that, again, that hand wringer washer that I mentioned. And then it looks more like a person, but it's got this sort of frightening visage and almost looked like a horned hat or maybe even horns itself. And it's holding something in its hand, and it's pointing sort of in my direction. I flipped right out, obviously. I just lost my shit. Like, I didn't know what to fucking do. Crawled back into bed, pulled the blankets over my head, cried my shit to sleep. You know what I mean? Just like hiding under the pillow, like desperate. My mother didn't wake up, didn't hear a damn thing, you know? So, of course, the story that I when I started telling my family, I think I saw something, so it was pretty crazy, whatever. You get the obvious disbelief, like, well, chances are you were just dreaming, just asleep. And, you know, that's very fair. I accept that on a scientific and reasonable level. But I've had nightmares before and never had such a visceral physical memory of it that for 30 years it stayed with me as though it was a moment I was living today. You know? And I don't think that a simple dream is usually as potent as that. Although maybe I'm wrong. I've never had a prophetic dream or anything like that. So maybe that's just, you know, sometimes the nature of these things. But I can tell you since then, I have seen and experienced some shit that I don't know how to explain. And I spent the rest of my life, because of that moment, that experience, and not being believed. And in fact, being ridiculed. Like, don't tell your cousins that. You're just trying to scare them. You know, and it's like, I'm scared. I don't want to go in the basement. Stop scaring people. I'm not going in the basement. You're just trying to scare people. It's like, okay, well, maybe I am, but I'm still not going back fucking down there. So, you know, as scared as they might be, fuck you, I'm not going back down there.
Maybe you got abducted. Maybe it was aliens.
Fuck, man. Maybe.
Or
Who knows?
Or maybe you got your mind hijacked for a night.
All I know is this. Since then, I've seen some shit.
Manchurian
I've worked in a
Candidate.
few really interesting places. As a security guard, I've had some interesting jobs. I worked in a bar that I'm telling you to this day, that building still makes me nervous. It's a very scary place. And I've seen, again, I just say I'm seeing some shit. I've had access to a lot of CCTV security footage and seen some shit on footage. Also, it's like I wasn't even there, but like that shouldn't happen. What the fuck is that all about? You know, like wind will move things, but wind does not move a 200-pound desk 4 feet on its own. And I don't know any phenomenon that does. It's sort of an earthquake. And if I'm in the same building and I didn't feel any vibration, and there on the camera the desk has moved 4 feet, you see it move. The building didn't fall down, right? I'm in it. But, you know, so at a certain point you have to say to yourself, you know, what are we dealing with here?
Yeah, well, apparently lenses, cameras, like these kinds of things do capture those kinds, can allegedly capture those kind of energies.
But I'm saying there's nothing on film except for a 400-pound desk moving 6 feet. Yes, a lens is going to catch that happening. But you're absolutely right. Thermal cameras. You know, it's one of the funny things about things like Bigfoot and ghosts and shit like this. We have so much CCTV. We have so much camera footage. You would think that the answer would be obvious. It'd be in. You know, like we've satellite surveyed almost every square inch of the earth. You'd think we could have one solid picture of Bigfoot, right? But who knows, man? The universe is more interesting than that.
When my family's got a graveyard up on our property out in Belleville, and a lot of our folks for the past 200 years have been buried there. And this is a photo of the graveyard that we took when we went on a ghost walk one night. We were all up there, and my cousin took that, and this appeared in her photo. And that what you're seeing could be derived as lens flare,
The orb?
but it's an orb, and that they float above graves allegedly.
Oh, they also it actually in
And
the
you
ghost
can
in
see
the
them
ghost
around.
phenomenon world, orbs are one of the things they look for all the time in footage.
Yeah. And so
Now,
it's,
as a
it's
camera, as a
circular-
camera and videographer, when you see various lens flares and things like that, I mean, obviously, your first impulse is, okay, well, that's just a lens
there's a
effect or
face in it.
an odd light or a flashlight. Sure, but have you ever seen anything in photographs you've taken that just doesn't make any sense to you? Like,
On that.
and I asked that just because a lot of people have and a lot of people haven't.
In photographs I've taken personally, no.
The face.
Have you seen photographs that you thought to yourself, that's pretty interesting?
Yeah, definitely have. I've seen a bunch of pictures because, as remember, you asked you asked the question, who believed in ghosts, and I didn't raise my hands.
Yeah.
So every single time I'm asked the questions, the same question, people will pull up with pictures and be like,
Oh, of course, yeah.
how do you explain this? How do you explain that? Most of the time, I can figure out an explanation.
Yeah, usually I
Yeah.
can too, and that's why I'm
So,
asking.
But I've had like a few pictures and even videos where I'm like, I have no fucking clue how that happened.
Yeah, maybe there is an explanation, but I don't know what it is. Yeah.
Exactly.
And that's fair, and that's a very fair, objective opinion. I mean, that's not, you're not saying you discount the concept 100%. You're just saying, no, I don't personally believe in that, but I haven't, again, you haven't had any reason to, right?
Yeah. It's probably because of my upbringing. As I said, I was raised in Africa.
Sure.
Africa, it's not so much ghosts as in jinns. I
And
don't know if
yeah,
you've
yes.
ever heard of the term jinns.
Absolutely,
Jinn
yes.
spirits.
Absolutely, yep.
So
Oh, okay.
In Africa, they say that jinns are the reason behind people believing in ghosts,
Right.
because they're tricksters. They're
Right.
shapeshifters.
Right,
Yeah.
right, right.
They're like basically just here to fuck with people.
Right.
So, but yeah, I've heard crazy fucking stories.
Oh,
So,
fun.
for example, one of my uncles went out one night where my granddad told him, yeah, don't go out tonight. Because where I'm from, we have these stories where, like, you should not go out on certain days. Because
Right.
those days are the days where jinns patrol the
They
city.
play their games.
And if you meet with one, you might not come back home.
And is that like, is that based on celestial events or certain astronomical, certain reasons? Like what,
Nope.
what would be
So
the?
basically, jinns. I'm gonna explain this because I'm actually writing about jinns, so I know a lot of shit about them.
Sorry.
So jinns are basically like the way they explain it. They're basically creations like human beings. So they live on different planes. So they live on Earth, just like human beings, but we can't see them.
Right.
We can't interact with them, except certain people. My dad is from Benin, which is the birthplace of voodoo magic.
Right.
So
God.
I've seen some crazy shit.
Oh my God.
But and almost all my explanations, the first thing people told me, fucking jinns. They're the reason behind this shit. So they're not really celestials, they're just beings that you cannot really see and that have supernatural abilities.
But is there like a certain time of year based on like energies?
No.
Am I wrong in assuming that in the Old Testament ages the jinn were the children of fire?
Yes, exactly. The jinns are the beings of fire.
Oh my.
They're beings made of pure fire.
Which again, it was just, and then you take it to
there's-
a modern connotation. That's energy. So I mean,
Technically,
because
yeah.
fire, when you think about fire in itself, the representation of fire is heat energy making light.
Yeah.
So what you perceive is the light and the heat from the fire. But really, if you're made of fire, what you really are is just energetic
Pure
potential.
Energy, yes, exactly.
But in
Pure
those
energy.
days,
Which
they
would allow
didn't
for a
say-
lot of, which would allow, again, interpretation.
Only light they had was the
Right,
sun
and fire.
And fire.
But
And the sun
interpretation,
is
again,
fire, so-
ancient interpretation leading into modern connotation.
Yeah.
You could easily take the same idea of an energy being or a light being
Exactly.
and saying that it's fire. I mean, what is sunlight through a magnifying glass, right? If not,
Exactly. It's funny that you come up with this because that's exactly what I wrote in my book. Anyways, my story goes from my uncle went out, and as I said, jinns are shapeshifters. They can appear as whatever the fuck they want. So he went out with some friends, partied late last night, partied late all night, and he was coming back. There are certain hours, not days, but hours, where you should not be out because those are the hours where
Yeah,
you're out.
I think they're also
So-
called the witching hours here as well.
So, for example,
That's very cross-cultural,
a few
yes.
hours before sunrise.
Yep.
And that's the time where my uncle was walking home.
Classic.
Actually, I think he was driving home. Yeah, he was driving home, and his car broke down. And then, for some reason, he saw a relative. Just walked up to him, and the relative was like, "Didn't your dad tell you not to come out this time? At this time, like it's dangerous out right now. You should head back home right now. Like leave the car, just go home." And then he was like, "Okay." So he locked the car and started walking home. And the relative was like, "Okay, I'll walk you home." And then they walked home, they talked, they walked home. He arrived home, knocked on the door. The same guy opened the door. And he was like, "How the fuck aren't you?" He turned around and there was nobody behind him.
Right.
Then he told the story to my granddad, and my granddad was like, "Yeah, you met a Jin. You're lucky it was one of the good ones. He probably protected you from some shit that was gonna happen."
Yeah, you're just playful instead of malevolent.
Exactly.
What the
He just wanted to freak you out. Didn't want to kill you. Lucky you.
I mean, you've had that experience where I feel like I've met somebody, and I always call it the Matrix, where I'm like, like the Matrix glitched on that one or something. There was a weird thing there.
You know what's
and,
interesting?
like,
Like I
someone
said,
had
since
an
I've
alien.
studied ghosts and the phenomenon of the supernatural my entire life, that story runs cross-culturally, globally. And the story is, and it changes variform and slightly, but often, especially in the Western world, in the 1950s to 1970s, it was a guy driving a car, sees a woman by the side of the road, who's just like, "Hey," and he pulls the car over, and she says, "I live just up the road. Can you give me a ride home?" And in the classic Western interpretation of that very similar story, he drives home to the house, right? Gets to the house, gets out of the car, goes to open the door for her, and she's gone. And in some veriformans, the guy walks up to the door, knocks on the door, and says, "Hey, there was this girl. I tried to drive," and an old person answers the door and explains, "Oh, well, no. My daughter died 10 years ago." And there's a picture of the woman on the mantle. Looks just like the girl. And you see, again, these cross-cultural phenoms with jinn or spirits or whatever manifestation and however you want to describe or attribute them. You see these cross-cultural connections, which is one of the few things that has always, for me, made it seem a little more valid. It's one thing if just one people had a story about the supernatural, but the fact that literally every single historical account culturally across the globe, isolated from each other by 1,000 kilometers,
Chronologically too, like throughout the ages.
yeah. It persists. And again, in the age of high technology, it still persists.
In fact, they were saying it's captured in some ways. Yeah.
Well, and that's what drives me crazy is it might be captured a lot, but at the same time, there's so much bullshit on the internet.
It's brutal.
You can't parse
You
it.
can't, ever since the Photoshop got invented,
Yeah.
you can't.
Oh
trust
man,
anything.
like I said,
man,
you
you
just
have
can't
no
parse.
idea.
You can't parse what is real from what is created.
Yep.
And as special effects, absolutely get more and more.
It's ridiculous now. You've seen like them redo The Shining with Jim Carrey
Yeah.
and stuff, right? It's ridiculous.
Yes,
It's
yes, I've seen that
ridiculous.
video.
It's
It's
ha-
crazy.
it's haunting. Watching that, it's
crazy.
creepy.
Yep.
Well, it's very fitting that we started the show with in terms of memories and those who aren't around, and now we're ending it with the supernatural and those that visit us while we're still here. So hopefully we can figure out and be so lucky to visit anyone after our
Yeah.
meat sacks have.
I guess what we're
retired.
trying to say is, if you watch the show, we're going to haunt you.
That's right. And if you know how you can become a haunter,
Yeah, use calls.
let us know because we're interested. Because once this plane ends, what's up next plane? That's what we want to know.
Yeah.
How are we? We're
Yep.
That's it. Are we gonna
All right, next planes. Cheers, guys. Thank you very much. We love you again. We'll see you soon.